Visit Sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions. Sailrite is making tutorial videos on how to reupholster the interior of a boat. In this video, we're going to concentrate on these backrests, and this is what they're going to look like when we're done. These backrests are made pretty ingeniously. When the backrest cushion is removed, you can see a hook on the back side of the board. This is an adhesive hook available from Sailrite with screws that reinforce it. On the underside of the board, there's also a hook there as well, an adhesive type. And here's how it works as we remove the old one for reupholstering. You can see that there is loop on two flanges of the cushion, and that loop attaches to the hook on the solid surface. Let's get started and show you how to reupholster it. We'll be using the old fabric as a pattern for the new decorative fabric.
This is the old cushion, and it's a backrest. And what they do is they use hook and loop, and they attach it to hook that's on the solid surface, so probably here and here. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but we have to duplicate it. So you could take apart all the fabric and rip the seams and use the old fabric as a pattern, or you could actually just get your pattern off the foam. We're going to reuse the foam because it's actually in good shape, and usually a backrest foam never gets compressed because it's doesn't have much pressure up against it. Because the fabric wraps all the way around with a zipper in the back, and this is curved, the fabric piece, the end of the boxing has to match the distance of the top plate, and that's hard to do. It can be done, but the best thing to do is, if you've already got the cover, is to take apart the seams. Now, we don't have to do this on both ends. We just need basically one end of this boxing, and then we'll take apart a little bit more, and we'll get our measurements from the old fabric. So I'm going to take this all apart. We have the end piece taken off, and we'll use it for both ends. And then we have this splayed out, and the zipper takes up a 1/2 inch. So if I measure and I pull it taut to make sure that it's fairly tight, I get, what do I get, 16 3/4. And I need to add 1 inch to that, so that would be 17 3/4 for the distance of my plate, which should match up to this. Okay, and then we need to cut, obviously, these pieces here, which are doubled over. You can see that they're folded in half to create a little bit of a thickness. So that would be 3.5. So these would be 7 inches. And then the length of these, so the length of this, if I measure it, is 19 inches, but they folded this under. So we're going to go 20 inches so that we can fold it under on both ends here. So I'm going to flip this around so that I can see the seam of this plate to get the length. And we can measure to this seam. There's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so we'll add that for on this end. And then pull it fairly taut here. Let me lock that. So I get 25.5. 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch means 26.5 for this length. I use the clear acrylic ruler in a scribe ball to mark each one of these patterns. You could also use a chalk pencil. So we have the top plate and the plates for the hook and loop. And now we have this on the material. This is the outside surface, and this is, so the wrong side is up. So we'll need to mirror it for the second one. The second one will be on like that. But here's how you do it. So we can put it down like that, and you can use multi-use pins. I'm marking on the back side of this Outdura fabric. This is a beautiful fabric that is 100% Sushin dyed acrylic. Great upholstery fabric available from Sailrite in multiple colors. And I'm going to pin this in place so it doesn't move like that. And then we'll just make sure that when we trace around it, that we make sure the folds are out. Now here they cut a corner basically to get around the corner, so I'm just going to act like that corner is still in place here. Okay. Now it's always a good idea when you're using a synthetic fabric to use a hot knife, which helps to prevent damage, or helps to prevent the edges from unraveling. So I'm using the Sailrite Edge hot knife to do this. We have a corded version and a cordless version. I'm using the cordless. And this is the precision cutting foot and blade, which is awesome because you don't need glass to protect the tabletop underneath. Neat thing about this is that we can just go around the old one as a template for the new one and just use this hot knife right around it. Now we'll just simply cut out all these plates and we can get started by inserting our zipper next.
Onto the top plate, we'll sew a zipper on both edges since it wraps around the foam.
This is the long edge of the top plate that's going to have a zipper in the middle, and I'm just marking over 1 inch with a clear acrylic ruler on both sides, and then I can fold down with a 1/2 inch single hem to this line. So I describe this, and this is the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side. This has a latex coating on it because it's more of an open weave fabric, and that stabilizes the fabric. Some of the Outdura fabrics do not have that. Some of them do. Okay, we put double-sided tape 1/4 inch for canvas and upholstery. This is an acrylic glue, not a rubber-based glue, so if you use a light fabric and it turns brown, the rubber bases usually do, you can sometimes see it through the fabric. This one will not. I'm going to use the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler to make sure it adheres down well, because this is an acrylic, and acrylics are water stain resistant and they're also glue resistant. That's why we do that. And then all I do is peel this off, and then I fold to that line like this, all the way down on both sides. This is a number 5 molded tooth, a Linzip. We're going to cut it a little bit longer than our plate, and I'm actually going to use double-sided tape on it too. There's no right side or wrong side to the zipper since it's a molded tooth. We're just going to put the 1/4 inch seam stick close to the flange on both sides of the zipper, or both this side and that side, not flipping it. I'm going to peel off one side of the transfer paper, not peel off the other. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put the zipper down with my double-sided tape over here, and I'm actually going to put this on so that it's centered on the teeth. This is a quick way to do it so you can get it pretty accurate, and you just push down temporarily to hold it in place. We've got a little bit sticking over the edge, which is what I want, and when you're happy, which I am, then I just apply pressure, and that keeps it in place. We're going to sew this before we deal with the other end. So you can see the fold is almost in the center of the teeth. That's what we want. So since we have everything basted in place and it's going to stay there, we're going to put the zipper on so that it's on the top side, though you could sew it on the other side as well. And I've got 4mm stitch length and my needle's off to the right, and I'm just going to sew right next to the right side of the outside presser foot all the way down the side, and do reversing when I reach the end. Next, to keep the zipper consistent, I'm just going to fold this almost in half like that and lay it down flat, and then I'm going to peel off the transfer paper of this side, and all I do is I just make sure the ends match up, these ends, and I place it right next to the other half of our fabric all the way down its length. Don't pull on the fabric because you can stretch it, but look at that, I've got both ends that are perfect. So we'll make sure that's basted down well. And now with that basted down, what I'm going to do to make it easier for sewing so I don't have to sew inside this is I'm going to separate this, making sure that I don't pull it off what I just basted.
We'll sew the opposite side in the same manner. We'll not be showing that. Next, we'll be making the flanges that hold the loop.
Now for the hook and loop panels, we're going to put double-sided tape on the short ends on both of these. We're going to take the transfer paper off, and we're going to fold this just about a 1/2 inch. I'm not measuring, and we'll do that to all of them. I put double-sided tape on one of the long sides on both pieces here, and then you just simply fold this in half. And we need to put some loop on it. This side had loop on it. Oh, actually both of these pieces have loop on it. So we'll show you that next. Okay, we're going to cut our loop to approximately the right distance, a little bit long. I'm going to put the 1/4 inch seam stick on the back side anywhere, just to hold it in place. And we're going to do this to both pieces. It should be on the side that's folded, not the raw side, as our old one was. And the hook is already on the hard surface on the boat, so we don't have to do anything with that. And we're going to cut it to the exact size, like that, and we're going to take it to the machine and sew it. I'm going to start on the short end, and I'll just do a little bit of reversing here, and we will sew to the corner here, making sure that we're still in our hook. Right there. Needle's still buried, pivot around there, sew down this side, and then we're going to finish it off by sewing the short side. So I'll pivot right here. Needle coming up a little bit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down this this side as well, and I'll do the same thing with both pieces. I'll do some reversing there. Okay, and I'll reverse when I get to the end, and we'll do the second piece. If we measure this over, you can see from the end of the zipper, it's 1 1/4 inches. So 1 1/4 inches is here. You can tell it pretty easily with the clear acrylic ruler. And I'm just going to use my chalk pencil this time because the scribe ball might leave marks that don't come off easily. We'll do it there, and we'll do it over here. If you look at the old one, you can see that the loop is up. So I put double-sided tape on the back side where the loop is not present. And these are basically centered, so I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to pretty much guesstimate at that. And we'll baste down here, and we'll sew a 1/2 inch there, and we'll baste this one down like this, just like the old one.
After sewing those on, it's time to baste and clip the half-round boxing ends onto the plate.
So we're going to fold this in half to find the center, and that basically just means his teeth are on top of themselves. And then we'll mark it here, and we'll do the same thing on the other end. We're going to take both these pieces and fold them in half to find the center, and I'm going to mark this side and the other side, right like that.
We did not show it, but double-sided tape was applied to the plate on the ends, and we removed the transfer paper, revealing the glue.
So outside surfaces would face each other. There's our center mark and our center mark here. We're going to start here, so those are on top of each other. And then you don't want to pull on this piece. It's going to be slightly big, and it won't stick exceptionally well because of the curve. So we use these clips that are available. They're brand new, and they're really aggressive because they're rubbery too. So I like to use them. And sometimes basting on curves, it's better to have the fabric off of the table so you can follow the contour of the curve. I'm going to clip it here. When I reach it, this part, we need to put a slit in the plate. So this is where it runs into this edge right here. We need to put a slit a 1/2 inch away from where it's running into it and go no deeper than a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so to allow the fabric to split. So now what I do is I take this and I basically create a square at that corner. And if this is short, which it is a little bit short from the center position, what I can do is I can actually shrink this up a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll peel this up, because this is why I baste. So now I'm not going to introduce wrinkles, but I am going to basically kind of reduce this amount so that it falls where I want it to fall. So I don't want to pull. I want to kind of shrink this up a little bit. And now let's see what this does. Take this turn, and we are almost right in the center there. So what I'm going to do is clip it here, okay? And now we're going to go this direction, following that exact same procedure. Again, it looks like this is a little bit big, so I'm just going to try to shrink it up just a teeny bit without putting wrinkles in it. Or you could pull a little bit on this plate a little bit as you're basting. And we need to cut a slit here. If you don't cut these slits, it'll never work. It'll always be like too small, and it won't match up at the zipper. So there we go. And then I lift it up a little bit. I pull this over, and what I should get is pretty much right to the center so that the zippers are going to match up, and it looks like it will. So I'm going to put some clips on this. Before I finish this end, I'm going to go ahead and zip this together here. And I've got the slider going towards the inside, but I have to zip it all the way through to close up the zipper. So let's get this on. Okay, so I have to zip it all the way through because I really want this to be closed, and I have to put it back on again, which is a bummer. Well, let's do this. Boop.
Separate the zipper about 3/4 of the way down. Do not separate it all the way.
Before we zip it up, I'm going to put this one on in the exact same manner that we did over there. Outside surfaces would face each other. We're not going to show this.
Once the end is basted and clipped in place, install the slider.
Okay, now we're going to put the slider back on and make sure the tab is facing towards the inside as you do it. And then we're going to leave the slider in the middle position once I get it past that fabric that's basted. There we go. Right there. And then I'll rebaste this a little bit because it came up a little bit. There we go. Let's take it to the machine. I will say these larger grip clips are very nice indeed, but for smaller applications you may want to consider these smaller clips. They just aren't as bulky. These grip clips definitely grip better, and because they have a rubber end, they grip the fabric well, but I would recommend these for larger applications like covers and dodgers and biminis and large upholstery applications. For this, for the second one, I used these smaller clips and it worked really well. Both work, but I think for smaller applications these are better.
We'll show sewing the box ends onto the plate next.
Okay, we put our magnetic guide on at a 1/2 inch. The needle's in center position, and I'm still sewing about a 4mm stitch length. I'm going to take off the tag near the middle. Doesn't really matter where you start, but that's a good enough spot. I don't want to sew any wrinkles in my seam allowance, so I'm going to put my foot down. I'm not going to do any reversing here, but we will do reversing when we come back to that area. So just make sure that it's flat and sew following the shape. Make sure these clips don't get caught on anything. I'm going to take the clips off as I go. Make sure I don't sew any wrinkles in underneath here. So I take my finger and I tuck the fabric, and then I feel for wrinkles in the seam allowance area to make sure there are none. Yeah, perfect. When I get to this corner here, I'm going to bury my needle at that corner. Let's get this clip out of the way. It's getting in the way of things. One more stitch, needle coming up, lift my foot. I'm going to pivot on that corner. So I'm going to flip this around so that I can sew down this side like this. Make sure there's no wrinkles in there. See, by doing this underneath, yeah, it feels nice and flat. I'm going to lower my foot and I'm going to sew this way. Okay, I'm coming to the zipper, and before I get to the zipper, I'm going to take a scrap piece of fabric just right here on the zipper side and go over top of it so that I sew through that and kind of reinforces that. Sewing through the teeth. Okay, and I'm going to do a little bit of reversing here, going back over the teeth just to make sure that it's down well. I'm coming to the next corner. My fabric is flat, I can feel it. I'm about a 1/2 inch from that edge. I'm going to bury my needle using the reverse lever so I can position it back a little bit instead of forward. Needle coming up, lift the foot, pivot, and follow this curve, making sure that I don't sew any wrinkles in the seam allowance area. And it's really just about that easy. Let's see, there we go. Nice, lower the foot and sew. Following the curve. When I feel like there's fabric bunching up, I'm going to roll this around so that I'm almost coming up to where I began. Okay, I got that worked out, or worked back together. A little bit of a bump there. We're going to pull it out like this so that the bump is not there. And I'm almost back to where I started. Nice and flat. And then I want to sew over top of those stitches by about 1 inch, and then do a little bit of reversing right there. Don't go too far because you might be able to see those stitches. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. It's like a half moon, crescent moon. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Now at the corners, you can do this if you want. Just take out some of the bulk just by doing that, because you're going to have a little dog ear at each one of these, and that's not a bad idea to do it. Now we just open this up and turn it right side out, and make sure that you push all the corners out with your finger. Nice corner. Now comes the time to test it out. Now you do have to push the foam into the corners and to get it in position, but you can even do that after sometimes you zip it up a little bit. Should be a nice snug fit, so don't be alarmed if it feels like, hey, that's really too tight. You really want it tight. Okay, good. Now let's zip it up and position the corners a little bit. So as you can see, we got to push this into the corners. It doesn't look good at all right now, but after we're done doing this, it should look great. Get it worked in there. All right, and that is basically the entire process of making one of these things. Look at that, looks pretty nice. Still have a little bit of stuff, foam to work into the corners, but we'll go out to the boat and we'll put it up and show you what it looks like here.
After we smooth out the Outdura fabric around the foam, let's show you how to install it. Our solid surface already had the adhesive hook installed, but if you need it, here's the part number. You can order it at Sailrite.
So all you have to do to install this is just wrap it around your surface and position it exactly where you want it, and then attach the hook and loop, and you've got a nice backrest. Pretty neat way to create a backrest for something like this.
Our bolstered backrest cushion is now complete. We used Outdura Upholstery Fabric. Outdura Upholstery Fabrics are solution-dyed acrylics indoor-outdoor performance fabrics. They are UV, water, and mildew resistant. You will find hundreds of styles and colors at the Sailrite website. A brand new tutorial video will be coming soon showing how to make the seating cushion, which has a fabric pole on the inside and has a fabric bottom. When that video is available, there'll be a link in the description. Also, check out the materials and tools that we used in this video down in the description below. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.